So, this might be the most heartbreaking and beautiful story you'll ever hear. A black nurse named Rachel heard crying coming from a hospital's sewage disposal chute. When she looked inside, she found a newborn baby with Down syndrome that someone had tried to throw away like garbage. The baby's own mother had dumped him there to die. Rachel saved that baby, took him home, named him Joshua, raised him as her own for 7 years. And then one day, there was a knock on her door. Standing there was a woman Rachel had never seen before, a woman holding legal papers, and what she said next changed everything. But here's the twist that'll destroy you. What happened next exposed a secret so devastating that it tore apart multiple families, went to court, and made national headlines. Sit tight, because this story will break you, rebuild you, and leave you questioning everything about love, sacrifice, and what makes someone a real mother. Before we start, help me prove something. My mother said I'd never reach 100 subscribers. Subscribe to the Tales Teller and show her these stories matter. Now let's continue. Rachel Thompson was a night shift nurse at Seattle General Hospital when she heard the sound that would haunt her forever. It was 2:47 a.m. on a freezing February morning in 2016. Rachel was 42 years old, divorced for 5 years, no children, not by choice, but because life hadn't worked out that way. She'd been a pediatric nurse for 18 years. She'd seen premature babies fight for life, she'd held dying children, she'd comforted grieving parents. But nothing prepared her for this. Rachel was walking past the staff restroom on the maternity ward when she heard it. A faint cry, barely audible over the hospital's hum. She stopped, listened. There it was again, coming from inside the restroom. Rachel pushed open the door. The crying was louder now, but it wasn't coming from the bathroom stalls. It was coming from the sewage disposal chute. Rachel's blood ran cold. The sewage disposal chute was where the hospital disposed of medical waste before it went to the incinerator. Soiled linens, contaminated materials, things meant to be destroyed. The crying was coming from inside. Rachel's hands shook as she opened the chute access panel. She pulled out her phone flashlight and looked inside. And there, on top of a pile of bloody sheets and medical waste, was a newborn baby. Naked, covered in blood and vernix, umbilical cords still attached, dangling into the filth below, crying weakly. Rachel didn't think. She reached in and pulled the baby out. He was freezing. His lips were blue. He was barely moving. "Code Blue, NICU, now!" Rachel screamed as she ran. She burst into the NICU, cradling the baby against her chest, trying to warm him with her body heat. Dr. Sarah Martinez and 2 other nurses rushed over. "What happened?" Sarah demanded, already working on the infant. "I found him in the sewage disposal chute," Rachel said, her voice shaking. "Someone threw him away." The room went silent except for the baby's weak cries and the sound of medical equipment. Sarah examined the baby quickly, professionally, but Rachel saw her hands trembling. "He's hyperthermic, dehydrated, possible infection from the waste exposure." Sarah's voice was clinical, but her eyes were horrified. "How long was he in there?" "I don't know. He's still crying, so maybe not long. We need to get him stabilized, start antibiotics, warm him slowly." "Sarah," one of the other nurses said quietly, "look at his face." Sarah looked. So did Rachel. The baby had almond-shaped eyes, a flattened facial profile, a single crease across his palm. Down syndrome. "Oh God," Sarah whispered. "Someone threw him away because—" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. They worked on the baby for 2 hours, warming him, cleaning him, starting IVs, running tests. He was a fighter. Against all odds, he was alive. "We need to call the police," Sarah said once the baby was stable. "This is attempted murder." The security footage told the story. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, had been admitted in labor at 11 p.m. She'd given the name Jennifer Smith, paid the registration fee in cash, said she had no insurance. She gave birth alone in a delivery room at 2:15 a.m., 12 minutes before Rachel found the baby. She'd walked straight to the staff restroom, been inside for less than 2 minutes, then walked out, checked herself out of the hospital, and disappeared into the night. She'd thrown her own newborn baby into a sewage chute and left him to die. The police launched an investigation. Jennifer Smith was a fake name. The address she'd given didn't exist. The security footage showed her face, but she wore a hoodie pulled low. No license plate. She'd arrived by taxi. She'd planned this, planned to give birth and dispose of the evidence. Social services got involved. A woman named Margaret Chen came to the hospital 3 days later. "The baby will be placed in state custody," Margaret said. She was kind but firm. "Given his medical needs and his condition, we'll try to find a specialized foster home, but—" She didn't finish, but Rachel understood. A newborn with Down syndrome who had been found in a trash chute, who might have medical complications from infection and exposure, nobody was lining up to take him. "What happens if you can't find a home?" Rachel asked. Margaret sighed. "We'll go to a group facility. It's not ideal, especially for an infant, but we're understaffed and underfunded. We do our best." Rachel looked through the NICU window at the baby. He was sleeping now, finally, peaceful, so tiny, so innocent, so unwanted. That night, Rachel went home to her empty apartment. She'd bought it after the divorce, a one-bedroom in Capitol Hill. It was quiet, clean, lonely. She sat on her couch and cried. She thought about that baby, about someone throwing him away like garbage, about him growing up in a group facility with rotating caregivers who were too overwhelmed to give him the love he needed. She thought about her own life, 42 years old, working night shifts, coming home to silence, no family, no children of her own. Her ex-husband hadn't wanted kids, and by the time she'd realized how much she did want them, it was too late. Rachel made a decision. The next morning, she called Margaret Chen. "I want to foster him," Rachel said. There was a long pause. "Miss Thompson, do you understand what you're taking on? This baby has Down syndrome. He'll need specialized care, therapy, medical appointments. It's not—" "I'm a pediatric nurse," Rachel interrupted. "I've worked with special needs children for 18 years. I know exactly what I'm taking on." "It's a huge commitment." "I know, and I'm ready." "Okay, let me start the paperwork." 3 weeks later, Rachel brought Joshua home. She'd named him Joshua David Thompson. Joshua because it means God is salvation, because this baby was saved. David because it means beloved, because Rachel already loved him more than she thought possible. She set up a nursery in her bedroom, bought a crib, a changing table, more baby clothes than one infant could possibly need. She read everything about Down syndrome, joined support groups, found specialists, and she fell completely, irrevocably in love. Joshua was a happy baby. He smiled early, those beautiful, face-splitting grins that children with Down syndrome are known for. He laughed at everything. He would love music and would bounce in Rachel's arms whenever she played it. He was, yes, some challenges. He had low muscle tone, so he was slower to reach physical milestones. He had heart issues that required surgery at 6 months. He needed physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. But he was perfect. Rachel's life revolved around him. Therapy appointments, doctor visits, school meetings, but also birthday parties, play dates, swimming lessons. She'd never been happier. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon in November, 7 years after she'd found Joshua in that sewage chute, there was a knock on Rachel's door. Rachel opened it. Standing there was a white woman in her early 50s, well-dressed, expensive coat, perfect hair. She was holding a manila folder. Behind her was a younger woman, mid-30s, also white, professional clothes, nervous expression. "Can I help you?" Rachel asked. The older woman smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Are you Rachel Thompson?" "Yes." "I'm Catherine Morrison. I'm an attorney." She held up the folder. "We need to talk about Joshua." Rachel's blood ran cold. "What about Joshua?" Catherine's smile vanished. "I'm here on behalf of Amanda Morrison, Joshua's biological grandmother." She gestured to the younger woman beside her. "This is Amanda, and she wants her grandson back."
Rachel's world tilted. "I'm sorry, what?" "May we come in?" Catherine asked. It wasn't really a question. Rachel didn't move. "No. Tell me what this is about, now." Catherine sighed. "Fine, we'll do this on your porch." She opened the folder. 7 years ago, my daughter gave birth to a baby boy at Seattle General Hospital. That baby was taken into state custody and eventually adopted by you.
Your daughter abandoned him in a sewage chute, Rachel said, her voice shaking. She tried to kill him. My daughter was 19 years old, scared and suffering from postpartum psychosis, Catherine said sharply. She made a terrible mistake, one she's regretted every day since. Then why did she disappear? Why didn't she come back? Because she was terrified of going to prison, Amanda said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken. Her voice was soft, sad. Because she was a teenager who panicked and ran. Because she spent 7 years in therapy trying to come to terms with what she'd done. Rachel stared at her. And now you want him back? We want to be part of his life, Catherine corrected. We understand that you've raised Joshua. We're not trying to erase that. But biologically, legally, he is my grandson, and my daughter has rights. She gave up those rights when she threw him in the trash, Rachel's voice rose. Joshua was inside, watching TV. She forced herself to lower her voice. She left him to die. She has no rights. Actually, Catherine said, pulling papers from the folder, she does. The adoption was processed under the assumption that the biological mother couldn't be found, but we found her, and she never legally terminated her parental rights. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. Or filing a motion to overturn the adoption on the grounds that it was granted without proper notification to the biological family. This is insane, Rachel said. You can't just show up after 7 years. We can, Amanda interrupted, and we are. You'll be receiving official court documents within the week. I suggest you get a lawyer. She turned to leave. Amanda hesitated, looking at Rachel with something that might have been guilt or pity. I'm sorry, Amanda said quietly. I know this is hard, but he's my son. I made a mistake, and I've paid for it every day. I just want a chance to know him. He's not your son, Rachel said, her voice breaking. I'm his mother. I've been his mother for 7 years. I'm the one who held him when he had nightmares. I'm the one who sat through his heart surgery. I'm the one who teaches him and loves him, and I'm the one who gave birth to him, Amanda said. That has to count for something. They left. Rachel stood on her porch, shaking until Joshua called from inside. Mama, the dinosaur show. Rachel wiped her tears and went inside. Joshua was sitting on the couch, pointing excitedly at the TV. Mama, look, T-Rex. Rachel sat down next to him and pulled him into her lap. He snuggled against her, completely oblivious to the fact that his entire world was about to explode. I love you, baby, Rachel whispered into her hair. Love you too, Mama. Joshua's eyes never left the TV. Rachel hired a lawyer, a woman named Patricia Wong who specialized in adoption law. This is unusual, Patricia said after reviewing the documents. The grandmother is claiming that the adoption was fraudulent because the biological mother was never properly notified. She couldn't be notified. She disappeared. She gave a fake name. The police couldn't find her. I know, but the Morrison family is arguing that the state didn't try hard enough, that proper procedure wasn't followed. What does that mean? It means we're going to trial, and Rachel, I need to be honest with you. This is not a sure thing. The courts take biological relationships very seriously, especially when the birth mother is contesting the adoption. She threw him in the garbage, Rachel said, her voice hollow. She tried to kill him. I know, and we'll argue that. We'll argue abandonment, endangerment, all of it. But, Patricia hesitated, the Morrison family is claiming Amanda was suffering from postpartum psychosis, that she wasn't in her right mind, that she since received treatment and is now stable. So they're saying it wasn't her fault? Essentially, yes. Rachel felt rage building in her chest. And what about Joshua? What about what's best for him? He doesn't know these people. I'm his mother. Taking him from me would destroy him. I know. And that's what we're going to argue, that you're his psychological parent, that removing him from your care would cause irreparable harm. I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that we might lose. The preliminary hearing was 3 weeks later. Rachel sat in a courtroom with Patricia. Across the aisle sat Catherine Morrison, Amanda Morrison, and their lawyer. Rachel looked at Amanda for the first time in decent light. She was pretty, blonde hair, blue eyes. She looked tired, haunted. She kept twisting her hands in her lap. She looked nothing like Joshua. Joshua, with his beautiful brown skin, Rachel's skin, and his bright smile and his dinosaur obsession. The judge, a woman named Eleanor Hughes, reviewed the case. This is a petition to overturn an adoption that was finalized 6 years ago. Miss Morrison, you're claiming that the adoption was granted improperly. Yes, Your Honor. My lawyer, Miss Catherine Morrison, stood. The adoption was granted under the assumption that the biological mother couldn't be located, but my client, the child's biological grandmother, was never contacted. Amanda, the biological mother, was never given the opportunity to contest the adoption. Because she tried to murder her child and then fled, Patricia said sharply. Amanda was 19 years old, scared and suffering from postpartum psychosis, the Morrison lawyer countered. She made a terrible mistake, one she's regretted every day since. And, Miss Morrison, is it true that you placed your newborn child in a hospital sewage disposal chute? Judge Hughes looked at Amanda. Amanda stood, her voice shaking. Yes, Your Honor. And then you left the hospital and went into hiding for 7 years? Yes, Your Honor. And now you want custody of this child? I want to know my son, Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. I know what I did was unforgivable. I know I don't deserve him, but I was sick and scared and I made a horrible mistake. I've spent 7 years in therapy. I've spent 7 years wishing I could take it back. I just want a chance. Judge Hughes was quiet for a long moment. Miss Thompson, you've been Joshua's adoptive mother for 6 years. Tell me about him. Rachel stood. She was shaking, but her voice was clear. Joshua is 7 years old. He has Down syndrome. He loves dinosaurs and music and hugs. He's in 2nd grade in a special education program. He can read at a kindergarten level. He's learning to write his name. He has a best friend named Miguel who also has Down syndrome. They have playdates every Saturday. She took a breath. Joshua has a heart condition that required surgery when he was 6 months old. He has physical therapy twice a week, occupational therapy once a week, speech therapy twice a week. He has doctor appointments every 3 months. He takes medication every day. She looked directly at Judge Hughes. He calls me Mama. Every morning when he wakes up, the first thing he says is "Good morning, Mama." Every night before bed, he hugs me and says, "Love you, Mama." I'm the only mother he's ever known, and taking him from me would break him. Judge Hughes nods slowly. This court will need to determine what's in the best interest of the child. We'll have a full hearing in 6 weeks. In the meantime, Miss Thompson retains custody. However, she looked at the Morrison family, I'm granting supervised visitation rights to the biological grandmother, Catherine Morrison, pending further evaluation. Your Honor, Patricia started. My decision is final, Judge Hughes said. This child has a biological family that wants to know him. We need to assess that relationship before making any permanent decisions. Rachel felt like she'd been punched. Supervised visitation. Strangers are going to meet her son. The first visitation was scheduled for the following Saturday at a family services office, 2 hours, with a social worker present. Rachel had to tell Joshua. Baby, tomorrow we're going to visit someone. Who? Joshua asked. A woman named Catherine. She's your grandmother, your other grandmother. Joshua looked confused. Gamma Dorothy is my gamma. I know, baby, but this is your birth grandmother. Do you remember how we talked about how you grew in another woman's tummy before you came to live with Mama? Joshua nodded. He knew he was adopted. Rachel had always been honest with him about it. Well, Catherine is that woman's mother, so she's your grandmother too. She wants to meet you. Why? Because she loves you, even though she hasn't met you yet. Joshua thought about this. Will she like dinosaurs? Rachel's heart broke. I don't know, baby, but you can tell her all about them. Okay, Joshua said easily. He yawned. Night, Mama. Night, baby. I love you. Love you too. The visitation room at Family Services was beige and depressing. A two-way mirror where social workers could observe. Catherine Morrison arrived exactly on time. She was alone, no Amanda. Where's the birth mother? The social worker, a woman named Linda, asked. Amanda isn't ready, Catherine said. She wanted to come, but she's afraid she'll upset Joshua. Rachel wanted to scream. If Amanda was too afraid to meet her own child, she had no business trying to take him, but she said nothing. Joshua clung to Rachel's hand as Catherine walked in. Hello, Joshua, Catherine said softly. My name is Catherine. It's so nice to meet you. Joshua hid behind Rachel's leg. It's okay, baby, Rachel murmured. You can say hi. Hi, Joshua whispered. Catherine smiled. Your mom tells me you like dinosaurs. Joshua peeked out. Yeah, I like T-Rex best. He has big teeth. I bet he does. Can you show me your favorite dinosaur? Joshua hesitantly walked over to the toy bin and pulled out a plastic T-Rex. He brought it to Catherine and started explaining, in his slightly unclear speech, all about tyrannosaurs. Catherine listened. She asked questions. She smiled. She was good with him. Rachel watched through tears she wouldn't let fall. 2 hours later, the visitation ended. You did so good, baby, Rachel said in the car. Catherine is nice, Joshua said. She said maybe next time I can show her my dinosaur books. Next time. There were 4 more visitations over the next month. Each time, Joshua got a little more comfortable with Catherine, and each time Rachel felt like she was losing him a little bit more. Then came the day Amanda showed up. Rachel wasn't prepared for Amanda to be at the visitation. She arrived with Joshua, holding his hand as they walked into the Family Services building. And there, sitting next to Catherine in the beige visitation room, was Amanda Morrison. Rachel's grip on Joshua's hand tightened. Who's that? Joshua whispered. Before Rachel could answer, Linda, the social worker, said, Joshua, this is Amanda. She's your birth mother. She's been wanting to meet you. Joshua looked up at Rachel, confused. Amanda stood slowly. She was crying before she even said a word. Hi, Joshua, she said, her voice shaking. Joshua stared at her. Then he looked at Rachel. Mama? He said uncertainly. It's okay, baby, Rachel forced herself to say. You can say hi. Hi, Joshua said quietly. Amanda took a step forward, then stopped, like she wanted to run to him but was holding herself back. I've wanted to meet you for so long, Amanda said. You're so handsome. And your mom, Miss Thompson, she says you love dinosaurs? Joshua nodded. What's your favorite? T-Rex, Joshua said, a little more confident now. That's a good one. They're very fierce, right? Joshua smiled. Yeah, they have 60 teeth. Wow, that's a lot of teeth. Rachel watched Amanda interact with Joshua, watched her son warm up to this stranger, this woman who had thrown him away. The visit lasted 2 hours. At the end, Amanda asked if she could hug Joshua. Joshua looked at Rachel. Rachel nodded, even though it killed her. Joshua let Amanda hug him. It was brief, awkward, but Amanda held on like she was drowning and he was a life raft. When they left, Joshua said, Amanda seems sad. She is sad, baby, Rachel said. Why? How do you explain this to a 7-year-old with Down syndrome? How do you explain that his birth mother abandoned him and now wants him back? She's sad because she didn't get to watch you grow up, Rachel said carefully. She missed a lot. Oh, Joshua said then. Mama, are we having pizza for dinner? And just like that, he moved on, because he was 7, because he didn't understand what was happening. But Rachel understood. She understood that every visitation was building a case for the Morrison family, that they were documenting Amanda's relationship with Joshua, that they were trying to prove she was capable of being his mother. The full custody hearing was scheduled for late January, 3 months after the Morrisons had first knocked on Rachel's door. Patricia prepared Rachel for what was coming. They're going to argue that Amanda was young and mentally ill when she abandoned Joshua, that she's since recovered and capable of parenting, that Joshua deserves to know his biological family. And what do we argue? We argue that you're his psychological parent, that removing him from your care would traumatize him, that biological connection doesn't trump 7 years of actual parenting, that Amanda had 7 years to come forward and chose not to. Will it be enough? Patricia didn't answer immediately. I don't know, Rachel. I honestly don't know. The trial lasted 3 days. The Morrison family's lawyer painted a picture of a young woman who'd made a terrible mistake while suffering from mental illness. They brought in psychiatrists who testified that Amanda had been suffering from postpartum psychosis, a rare condition that can cause delusions and erratic behavior. They brought in Amanda's therapist, who testified that she'd been in intensive treatment for 7 years and was now stable. They brought in character witnesses, friends who said Amanda was kind, responsible, had turned her life around. Catherine Morrison testified about how much she regretted not knowing her grandson, how much she could provide for him, private school, therapy, opportunities. And then Amanda took the stand. Miss Morrison, the Morrison lawyer said gently, tell the court what happened the night Joshua was born. Amanda took a shaking breath. I went into labor alone. I was terrified. I'd hidden my pregnancy from everyone. I was 19 and college. My boyfriend had left when he found out I was pregnant. I didn't know what to do. And when Joshua was born, I looked at him and I didn't feel anything. I thought there was something wrong with him. He didn't look right. His eyes, his face. I didn't understand what I was seeing. Tears streamed down her face. And then I panicked. I rocked him in a blanket and I put him in the disposal chute. I told myself he wasn't really a baby, that he was some kind of mistake, that he wouldn't survive anyway. The courtroom was silent. And then what happened? I left the hospital. I went back to my apartment, and about an hour later it hit me. What I'd done. I'd thrown away my baby. I called the hospital, but I hung up before anyone answered. I was too scared, too ashamed. Did you think about going back? Every day, every single day for 7 years. But I was afraid of going to prison, afraid of what people would think. So I ran. I transferred schools. I changed my name. I tried to forget. And when did you tell your mother? 6 months ago. I had a breakdown. I couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I told her everything. And what did she do? She hired a private investigator to find out what happened to my baby, and we discovered he'd been adopted by Miss Thompson, that he was alive and healthy and loved. Amanda looked at Rachel for the first time. I know I don't deserve him, she said. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I was sick and I'm better now, and I just want a chance to be part of his life, to tell him I'm sorry, to show him that I love him, even though I didn't know how to love him when he was born. It was a powerful testimony. Rachel could see the jury. This was a bench trial, but there was a courtroom full of people reacting, sympathizing. Then it was Patricia's turn to cross-examine. Miss Morrison, you said you thought about going back to the hospital every day. Yes, but you didn't. No. For 7 years, you knew you'd abandoned your child and you did nothing? I was afraid. You were afraid of consequences, Patricia said sharply, so you prioritized your own comfort over your child's well-being. I was sick. And when did you seek treatment for this sickness? Amanda hesitated. About 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So you were sick for 2 years, and then you were better, and you still didn't come forward for another 3 years? I was afraid of legal consequences. Exactly. You were afraid of prison, not afraid for your son, not wondering if he was okay, just afraid for yourself. That's not fair. Miss Morrison, do you know what Joshua's favorite food is? Amanda blinked at the change of subject. I know. Do you know what his favorite song is? No. Do you know the names of his therapists, his doctors, his teachers? I haven't had the chance. Do you know that he had open heart surgery at 6 months old, that he almost died? Amanda's face crumpled. No. Do you know that he still has nightmares sometimes about being in dark, enclosed spaces, that Miss Thompson has to check under his bed and in his closet every night because he's terrified of small, dark places? No, Amanda whispered. Do you know why he's terrified of those places, Miss Morrison? Amanda shook her head, crying. Because he spent the first hours of his life in a sewage chute, in the dark, surrounded by garbage, put there by you. Objection, the Morrison lawyer shouted. Harassment. Sustained. Ms. Wong, rein it in. But the damage was done. Then Rachel took the stand. She told the court everything. Every milestone, every doctor's appointment, every therapy session, every bedtime story, every nightmare, every triumph. She told them about Joshua's first word, mama. She told them about his first steps, taken at 2.5 years old, late for typical children, but a victory for a child with Down syndrome. She told them about his open heart surgery, how she'd sat in the waiting room for 6 hours praying, how she'd solved when the doctor said he'd survived. She told them about the first time Joshua read a word on his own, how proud he'd been, how proud she'd been. Miss Thompson, Patricia asked, if the court awards custody to Miss Morrison, what would happen to Joshua? He would be devastated, Rachel said simply. I'm his mother, not biologically, but in every way that matters. Taking him from me would be like ripping out his heart. He wouldn't understand. He'd think he did something wrong. He'd think I didn't want him anymore. Her voice broke. And I would lose the child I've loved and raised for 7 years. The child I pulled from a trash chute and brought back to life. The child who is my entire world. The courtroom was silent. Then the Morrison lawyer stood for cross-examination. Miss Thompson, you're not married, correct? Correct. And you're working part-time as a nurse? Yes, so I can be home more with Joshua. What's your annual income? Rachel's jaw tightened. About $45,000. And you live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Joshua and I share the bedroom. It works fine for us. But wouldn't Joshua be better off in a home with 2 parents, with financial stability, with access to private schools and resources? Joshua doesn't need money, Rachel said firmly. He needs love, consistency, someone who knows him, who understands his needs, who's been there for every single day of his life.
But wouldn't it be better for him to have all of that and financial resources? You can't buy love, Rachel said. You can't buy 7 years of being someone's mother, and you can't erase trauma by throwing money at it. After 3 days of testimony, Judge Hughes called for a recess to make her decision. I'll have a ruling in 1 week, she said. That week was the longest of Rachel's life. She tried to keep things normal for Joshua. They went to school, they did homework, they went to therapy. They had their Saturday playdate with Miguel. But at night, after Joshua was asleep, Rachel would sit on her couch and cry until she couldn't breathe. She couldn't lose him. She couldn't. The ruling came on a Friday afternoon. Rachel sat in the courtroom with Patricia. Across the aisle, the Morrison family sat in expensive suits, looking confident. Judge Hughes entered. Everyone stood. Please be seated, Judge Hughes said. She looked tired. She'd clearly struggled with this decision. This court has spent considerable time reviewing testimony and evidence in this case. The question before me is not simple. It involves the rights of a biological parent, the rights of an adoptive parent, and most importantly, the best interests of a 7-year-old child with special needs. Rachel couldn't breathe. Miss Morrison abandoned her child in a manner that could have resulted in his death. This fact is undisputed. However, the evidence suggests she was suffering from a severe mental health crisis at the time.
Postpartum psychosis is a recognized medical condition that can cause delusions, impaired judgment, and behavior completely out of character. No, 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 no. Miss Morrison has since received treatment and, by all accounts, has recovered. She is remorseful and wishes to establish a relationship with her biological son. Rachel felt Patricia's hand on her arm. However, Judge Hughes continued, this court must consider what is in the best interest of Joshua, and the evidence is clear. Joshua has been raised by Miss Thompson for 7 years. She is, in every meaningful sense, his mother. He calls her Mama. He depends on her. She knows his medical needs, his emotional needs, his daily routines. Rachel's heart was pounding so hard she thought she might pass out. Furthermore, Joshua has special needs that require consistent, knowledgeable care. Disrupting his placement at this stage would be deeply traumatic and would not serve his best interests. Oh God, was she... Therefore, it is the ruling of this court that the adoption of Joshua David Thompson by Rachel Marie Thompson shall remain in full effect. Miss Thompson retains full legal and physical custody. Rachel burst into tears. However, Judge Hughes said, and Rachel's relief turns to ice. This court also recognizes that Joshua may benefit from knowing his biological family. Therefore, I am ordering a graduated visitation schedule. Miss Morrison will have supervised visitation twice monthly for the next 6 months. After that period, if the visits are going well and Joshua is comfortable, we will reassess and potentially expand visitation. Catherine Morrison stood. Your Honor, we request unsupervised visitation. Request denied, Judge Hughes said firmly. Miss Morrison, you threw this child in a garbage chute. You abandoned him for 7 years. You do not get unsupervised visitation with a vulnerable child. You get a chance to slowly build a relationship. If you don't like those terms, you get nothing. Your choice. Catherine sat down, her face red. This court is adjourned. Rachel sat there, shaking. Patricia was hugging her, saying something, but Rachel couldn't hear over the roaring in her ears. She'd won. She'd capped Joshua. But it wasn't over. The Morrisons would be in their lives now, forever. Rachel went home and held Joshua so tight he complained. Mama, you're squishing me. Sorry, baby. I just love you so much. I love you too. Can we have mac and cheese for dinner? Anything you want, baby. Anything you want. The visitations continued. Twice a month, Rachel took Joshua to family services to see Amanda and Catherine Morrison. Joshua didn't mind them. He was 7 and trusting and saw the best in everyone. Amanda brought him gifts, books about dinosaurs, toys, art supplies. Catherine told him stories about her family, showed him pictures of Amanda as a child. You look like your mom, Catherine said one day, showing Joshua a photo of young Amanda. Joshua studied it seriously. Then he pointed out Rachel, who was sitting across the room trying to read a magazine and not eavesdrop. That's my mom, Joshua said matter-of-factly. Amanda's face crumpled, but she smiled through it. I know, sweetheart, Miss Rachel is your mom. I'm your birth mom. We're both important. Joshua shrugged. Okay. Then, more importantly, can I show you my new dinosaur book? Of course. Rachel watched these interactions with a mixture of emotions she couldn't name. Part of her was glad that Joshua was handling this well. Part of her was terrified he'd start preferring the Morrisons with their expensive gifts and their big house. And part of her, a part she was ashamed of, hated Amanda Morrison with a burning passion. 6 months passed. The visits went well, according to Linda, the social worker. Joshua seems comfortable with the Morrisons, Linda reported to Judge Hughes. He's affectionate with both Catherine and Amanda. He talks about them at school. The relationship is developing nicely. Judge Hughes authorized expanded visitation. Now, Amanda could take Joshua for 4-hour visits, still supervised, but they could leave the family services building. The first outing was to the zoo. Rachel helped Joshua get ready that Saturday morning, her stomach in knots. You're going to have fun at the zoo with Amanda and Catherine, Rachel said, forcing brightness into her voice. Are you coming too? Joshua asked. No, baby, this is just for you and them. But I want you to come, Joshua said, his face falling. Rachel's heart broke. I know, baby, but this is special time with your birth family. You'll tell me all about it when you get home, okay? Okay, Joshua said reluctantly. Amanda picked Joshua up at 10 a.m. She was nervous, fumbling with the car seat she'd had installed in her Volvo. We'll have him back by 2, Amanda promised. He needs a snack at noon, nothing with red dye, it makes him hyper, and if he seems tired, he might need a break. Loud noises can overwhelm him sometimes. I know, Amanda said. I've been reading about Down syndrome. I want to understand him better. Rachel wanted to scream that reading about it wasn't the same as living it, but she just nodded. She watched them drive away with her son. Then she went inside her empty apartment and fell apart. Saturday was torture. The apartment was too quiet. She cleaned things that were already clean. She did laundry. She tried to watch TV but couldn't focus. She called Amanda 3 times to check on Joshua. He's fine, Amanda said patiently. We're making cookies. He's having a great time. Sunday it was worse. Rachel knew Joshua was coming home at 5 p.m. She counted down hours. At 4:45, she was standing by the window watching for Amanda's car. At 5:15, they still weren't there. At 5:30, Rachel called Amanda. No answer. At 5:45, panic set in. At 6 p.m., there was a knock at the door. Rachel threw it open. Standing there was Amanda, alone. Where is my son? Rachel demanded. Amanda's eyes were red. She'd been crying. Can I come in? Where is my son? He's fine. He's at my house with my mother. Rachel, we need to talk. Rachel's blood ran cold. If you don't bring me my son in the next 5 minutes, I'm not keeping him from you, Amanda said quickly. I need to tell you something, and I need Joshua not to hear it. Rachel stepped aside. Amanda came in. They sat in Rachel's small living room, the same living room where Joshua did his homework, where they watched dinosaur documentaries together, where they danced to Justin Timberlake. What is this about? Rachel asked. Amanda took a shaking breath. I've been lying to you, to everyone, and I can't do it anymore. Rachel's heart was pounding. What do you mean? The story I told in court about being 19 and scared and suffering from postpartum psychosis, it was all true, but it wasn't the whole truth. I don't understand. Amanda looked Rachel in the eye. I didn't abandon Joshua because I was sick. I was sick, but that's not why I did it. Then why? Because I didn't want a baby with Down syndrome, Amanda said flatly. I looked at him and I saw a burden, a lifetime of doctor's appointments and therapy and stares from strangers. I saw my life being over before it started, so I threw him away. Rachel felt sick. The postpartum psychosis was real, but it didn't make me throw him in the trash. My selfishness did. My cruelty did. Amanda was crying now. And I've spent 7 years trying to make myself believe it was the mental illness, that I wasn't responsible, that I could be forgiven because I was sick. Why are you telling me this? Because this weekend I watched Joshua, really watched him, and he's amazing, Rachel. He's funny and smart and loving. He's not a burden, he's a miracle. And you gave him that. You saw him in that trash chute and you saw a baby worth saving, while I saw him as perfect and healthy and I still threw him away. Amanda's voice broke. I don't deserve him. I don't deserve to be in his life. I've been lying to myself, thinking I could make up for what I did, thinking wanting to be his mother now erased abandoning him then. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm dropping the custody case. I'm signing papers to terminate my parental rights, permanently. You're the real mother, Rachel, not me. I was just the woman who gave birth to him. Rachel couldn't speak. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for putting you through this, for putting Joshua through this. You were right. I should have stayed gone. Why now? Rachel asked. Why tell me this now? Because last night Joshua woke up crying. He had a nightmare. He was calling for you. Amanda looked at Rachel with devastating honesty. And when I went to his room, he looked at me and said, I want Mama, not me, you. He wanted you. She stood up. I tried to comfort him, but he just cried harder. He kept calling for Mama. I want Mama. So I called you, but you didn't answer because you were asleep, and I sat with him for an hour while he cried for you. Amanda. And I realized I'm not his mother. I never was. Being his mother is being the person he wants when he's scared, the person he trusts, the person he loves. And not you. It's always been you. Amanda walked to the door. I'll bring Joshua home in 20 minutes, and then I'll leave you both alone, forever if that's what you want. Wait, Rachel said. Amanda turned. Joshua talks about you. He likes you. He likes spending time with you. I know, but you made a terrible mistake, Rachel said. The worst mistake a person can make, but you're trying to fix it. You're trying to be better. And maybe you don't need to be his mother. Maybe you just need to be someone who loves him, from a distance, in a way that doesn't hurt him. Amanda stared at her. You're saying you'd let me still see him? I'm saying that Joshua doesn't understand complicated adult emotions. All he knows is that Amanda is nice to him, that she buys him dinosaur books and takes him to the zoo. Taking that away would confuse him, hurt him. Rachel took a breath. So here's what I'm proposing. You sign the papers, you terminate your rights, you acknowledge that he's my only legal mother, but you can still see him a few times a year, supervised, like an aunt, someone who cares about him but doesn't try to replace me. Why would you do that? Amanda whispered. Because I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Joshua. He deserves to know where he came from. He deserves to know that his birth mother isn't a monster, that she made a mistake, but she tried to fix it. Amanda broke down sobbing. 20 minutes later, she brought Joshua home. Joshua ran to Rachel and hugged her tight. Mama, I missed you. I missed you too, baby. Did you have fun? Yeah, we made cookies and watched a movie and... He yawned. I'm sleepy. Let's get you to bed then. Rachel took Joshua inside. She gave him a bath, put him in his dinosaur pajamas, read him 3 books about T-Rexes, and tucked him in. Mama, yeah, baby. I like Amanda, but I love you. Rachel kissed his forehead. I love you too, baby, more than anything in the world. More than dinosaurs? Even more than dinosaurs. Joshua giggled and closed his eyes. Rachel sat there watching him sleep, this miracle child who'd been thrown away and became her whole world.
3 weeks later, Amanda signed papers terminating her parental rights. Rachel's lawyer, Patricia, called with the news. It's official. You're Joshua's only legal parent. The Morrisons can't challenge the adoption ever again. Good, Rachel said. Amanda included a letter. Do you want me to read it? Go ahead. Patricia cleared her throat. Dear Rachel, I know I don't deserve your kindness or your mercy, but I wanted you to know that signing these papers is the first truly selfless thing I've ever done for my son. You are his mother. You always have been. Thank you for saving him. Thank you for loving him. Thank you for being the mother I should have been, but never could be. I'll never stop regretting what I did, but I'll also never stop being grateful that you were there that night, that you heard him crying, that you saved him. Please tell Joshua, when he's old enough to understand, that I'm sorry, and that giving him to you was the only good thing I ever did for him. With love and eternal gratitude, Amanda. Rachel was crying. There's more, Patricia said. Amanda set up a trust fund for Joshua. $200,000 for his future medical expenses, education, whatever he needs. It's in your control. She has no access to it. Rachel couldn't speak. She really did love him, Patricia said softly, in her own broken way. That weekend, Catherine Morrison came to visit, alone. She sat in Rachel's living room, the same place Amanda had sat 3 weeks earlier, and looked around. This is a nice home, cozy. Thank you. Joshua talks about it constantly, about his room with the glow-in-the-dark stars, about the park across the street where you take him every Saturday, about the pancakes you make shaped like dinosaurs. Rachel didn't know what to say.
I came here today because I need to apologize, Catherine said. When I found out about Joshua, I was angry. Angry that my daughter had made such a horrible mistake. Angry that I hadn't known I had a grandson. Angry that he'd been raised by someone else. She looked at Rachel. But I was wrong to fight you. You didn't steal Joshua from us. You saved him from the garbage, literally. And you gave him a life full of love and joy that we never could have given him. Mrs. Morrison, please let me finish. Catherine's voice shook. I spent 9 months trying to take Joshua away from you because I thought biology mattered more than love. I was wrong. Love is what matters. And Joshua loves you. He trusts you. He's happy with you. She pulled out an envelope. This is a letter explaining everything to Joshua, about his birth mother, about me, about what happened. It's for when he's older and starts asking questions, so he knows the truth, all of it. Rachel took the envelope. And this, Catherine pulled out another envelope, is for you. It's not money, it's pictures of Amanda as a child, of our family, so that when Joshua asks where he came from, you can show him, so he knows he came from somewhere, even if that somewhere wasn't perfect. Thank you, Rachel whispered. No, Catherine said. Thank you for being the mother my daughter couldn't be, for giving Joshua a chance at a beautiful life, for being so much better than we deserved. She stood to leave. Mrs. Morrison? Yes? Would you like to see Joshua? He's at the park with my mother. They'll be back soon. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. I would like that very much. When Dorothy brought Joshua home an hour later, he ran to Rachel as always. Mama, I went on the swings. Gamma pushed me really high. That's great, baby. Hey, we have a visitor. You remember Catherine? Joshua looked over and smiled. Hi, Catherine. Hello, Joshua. I heard you like swings. Yeah, they make me fly. Catherine laughed. That sounds fun. They spent an hour together. Catherine didn't try to be his grandmother. She didn't try to be anything except someone who cared about him. When she left, she hugged Rachel. Thank you, she whispered, for letting me be part of his life, even after everything. He deserves to know he's loved by a lot of people, Rachel said. He's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. 5 years later, Joshua was 12 years old. He was in 7th grade in an inclusive special education program. He'd grown tall, almost as tall as Rachel. His face had matured, but his smile was still the same, brilliant and infectious and full of joy. He still loved dinosaurs, though now he also loved video games and YouTube and a girl in his class named Sophia who had cerebral palsy. Mama, can Sophia come over for my birthday? Joshua asked one Saturday morning. Of course, baby. And Miguel? Definitely. And Amanda? Rachel looked up from making pancakes. You want Amanda to come to your birthday party? Yeah, she's nice, and she brings good presents, Joshua grinned. Rachel laughed. Okay, Amanda can come. Amanda came to visit 4 times a year now. Christmas, Joshua's birthday, Easter, and one random visit in summer. She never stayed long, never overstepped. She'd bring a gift, spend a few hours, and leave. She was like a beloved aunt, someone important but not essential. Catherine visited twice a year. She sent cards on holidays. She'd set up a college fund for Joshua that now has over $300,000. But Rachel was Mama, always, forever. Joshua's 12th birthday party was in the park. 20 kids from school, Rachel's family, some of Joshua's therapists who'd become like family, Miguel and his parents, Sophia and her parents, and Amanda, standing a little apart watching Joshua blow out candles. Rachel walked over to her. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me, Amanda said. She looked at Joshua, who was laughing with his friends. He's wonderful, Rachel. You've done a wonderful job with him. We did a wonderful job, Rachel corrected gently. You gave him life. I gave him a home. He needed both. Amanda smiled through tears. I think he needed you a lot more than he needed me. Maybe, but he has both of us now, in different ways. They watched Joshua together. He was trying to explain something about dinosaurs to Sophia, who was laughing and probably not following, but enjoying his enthusiasm anyway. Rachel, Amanda said quietly, yeah? That night, when I threw him in that chute, I think about it every day, and every day I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't heard him crying. Rachel's throat tightened. He would have died, Amanda continued, alone, in the dark, in the garbage, because of me. But he didn't, Rachel said firmly, because I did hear him, and I saved him, and he's here. He's alive. He's happy. That's what matters. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, Rachel said, but Joshua deserves to grow up knowing that people can make terrible mistakes and still choose to be better. That's the gift you're giving him now, not perfection, just effort. Amanda wiped her eyes. How are you so wise? I'm not wise. I'm just a mom who loves her kid. The best mom, Amanda corrected. Joshua ran over, Miguel right behind him. Mama, Miguel's dad said we can go to the dinosaur exhibit at the museum next weekend. Can we go? Please, please, please? We'll see, baby. That means yes, Joshua cheered. He hugged Rachel tight, then surprised everyone by hugging Amanda too. Thanks for coming to my party, Amanda. Thanks for inviting me, Joshua. Happy birthday. You're the best. Then he was off again, chasing Miguel toward the playground. Rachel and Amanda stood together, watching the boy who was thrown away and became the most loved child in the world. Rachel, Amanda said, yeah? That night, when you found him, I think about it every day, and every day I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't heard him crying. Me too, Rachel whispered. Me too. That night, after the party was over and the guests had left, Rachel tucked Joshua into bed. Did you have a good birthday, baby? The best. Mama, yeah, baby? Amanda told me today that she's my birth mom, that you saved me when I was a baby. Rachel's heart stopped. They'd talked about adoption before, but never in such direct terms. Yes, baby, that's true. Joshua thought about this. Did she not want me? Rachel chose her words carefully. She was very young and very scared. She made a bad choice. But then I found you, and I wanted you so much that my heart almost exploded. And now she wants me? Now she loves you from afar away, like how you love your favorite star. You can't touch it, but you're glad it's there. Joshua nodded slowly. Do you think she's sorry? I know she is, baby. That's okay then. Everybody makes mistakes. He yawned again. I'm glad she had me, and I'm glad you found me. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby, more than all the dinosaurs in all the world. Joshua giggled. That's a lot of dinosaurs. That's how much I love you. As Rachel turned off the light, Joshua said one more thing. Mama, when I grow up, I want to help other kids like me, kids who don't have mamas. That's a beautiful dream, baby. You'll help me, right? Always, baby. Always. Rachel closed the door and stood in the hallway of her small apartment, the apartment where she'd raised a miracle. She thought about that night 12 years ago, about hearing a cry from a sewage chute, about pulling out a tiny, discarded baby.
She thought about Amanda, who'd thrown him away and learned to love him from a distance. She thought about Joshua, who'd been unwanted and became the most wanted child in the world. And she thought about love, real love, the kind that doesn't come from biology, but from choice, from showing up every day, from choosing someone over and over again. Rachel had saved Joshua, but the truth was, Joshua had saved her too. So that's Rachel and Joshua's story. A nurse who heard a cry from a trash chute, a baby nobody wanted, and a love that proved biology means nothing compared to showing up. But here's what haunts me about this story. Amanda made the worst choice a mother can make. She threw away her baby. But years later, she made a different choice. She walked away again, but this time to give Joshua the life he deserved. So here's my question for you.
Can someone who abandons a child ever truly be forgiven? Does trying to make it right years later erase the original sin? Or is Rachel a saint for showing Amanda mercy when she didn't deserve it? And the harder question, what makes someone a real mother? The woman who gives birth or the woman who shows up every single day for 12 years? If this story broke your heart and put it back together, hit that like button and subscribe to The Tales Teller. Drop a comment and tell me, was Rachel right to let Amanda stay in Joshua's life? Or should some betrayals never be forgiven? Your story could be next.